game preview time for Rutgers-Seton Hall. First off, just wanted a program announcement. I'll have a full football podcast updating all the news that's been going on with Rutgers football with David Anderson coming out later on Friday, but wanted to get this game preview for Rutgers-Seton Hall out first. And obviously a huge game for both schools. Always is. Doesn't matter the records. But Seton Hall 5-5, really struggling this year. Very similar to last year's Rutgers team. Very good defensively, pretty horrific offensively. We'll go through the numbers in a minute. But they have some, really tough losses to start the season. They lost to Fordham, Hofstra, and Monmouth. And they just were getting blown out by Oklahoma State. What was that? Sunday. Came back, but still lost by double figures, or they lost by 9 points, excuse me. But overall, if they lose on Saturday at the RAC, it'll be their first non-conference losing season since, I think Jerry Carino said in the 80s. It's been a long, long time. So we know Shaheen Holloway. I think he's a very good coach. He's obviously was a great player for Seton Hall. He understands this rivalry. We saw 2 years ago. Seton Hall was the underdog. They came to the RAC. And you could argue that loss, could have been the loss that, I think the Minnesota loss kept that team out of the tournament. But you could also argue that Seton Hall loss did a lot of damage as well. And maybe if they had that win, maybe they would have gotten in. That was a Q3 loss. So this is a Q4 game. So this is a landmine game. And you know that Seton Hall is going to bring it in every way. And the fact that they can D up really hard, they're pretty physical. They have good size. This is a game for Rutgers. This is, for me, it's looking at the maturity of this team. Is this team mentally prepared for what this game is going to be like? And Jerry Carino had a great article about, the transfer portal era and players not really having history in this game. For Rutgers, obviously, JaMychal Davis played in it last year. That he is the only Rutgers player that played in that game last year. In terms of Seton Hall, I think it was Coleman and Wuzu were the only two players to play for Seton Hall. So, Holloway is going to do a good job of describing what to prepare for, what the environment's going to be like, and how important this game is for Seton Hall to his players. And I think on the flip side, Pikel's saying all the right things. He genuinely cares about this game, and he said in an article with Carino this week that as long as he's alive, Rutgers and Seton Hall will play. He gets it from a fan perspective. I think, we've all had complaints about the non-conference schedule over the years, different reasons, right? But I think that one thing we can agree on is Pikel has always been pro this game, and he made sure that this game did not go away, even when Kevin Willard wanted it to. So this is obviously a game that Rutgers needs to come out ready to play from the get-go. I think if you remember in 2019, that classic when Rutgers just throttled Seton Hall, Ron Harper Jr. with that alley-oop dunk to start it off, they blitzed them, right? And those guys understood the moment. They understood the importance of the game, and they came ready to go out of the gate. And I think for this Rutgers team, I think Dylan Harper fully understands the implications of this game. Jordan Durkak as well. Zach Martini, I think he will play in this game. It was a coach's decision, was not in the rotation against a very athletic, very quick Penn State team. Seton Hall plays one of the slowest tempos there is. Defensively, obviously, Martini needs to be able to hold up. But this is a game Rutgers needs to go in with the same mindset they went in the first half against Penn State. Spacing the floor, sharing the game, bringing intensity on the defensive end, being disruptive, rebounding as a team. All those things have to happen in this first half. And I think the start of this game is obviously huge. And I don't think anyone's going to, the intensity of those first few minutes is going to be an adjustment for both teams. And typically, this game is very sloppy from the outset because of that intensity that neither side is, as much as they prepare for it, you have to go through it to kind of get your bearings and get your legs and catch a breath. Because it's going to be a bit manic, and the RAC is going to be through the roof. The fans are going to be ready to go. The environment against Penn State was fantastic. The Winter Village is back. It opens at 12. This is a 3 p.m. tip on Fox. It's going to be electric. And the hope is that Rutgers gives the fan base a reason to just make that place a nightmare for Seton Hall. And this is a game where you have to be smart. I mean, Seton Hall does two things that worry you from an upset perspective. They rebound and they hit threes. And if you let them do both in this game, you are setting yourself up for a disaster scenario at the end of the game. Rutgers has to chop their legs off on both. Rutgers needs to the way they rebounded as a team against Penn State was super impressive, super encouraging. And let's not forget that Texas A&M game. They rebounded really well in that game too. So that's two of their last three games. They have shown real signs of being a good rebounding team. And rebounding is a lot of its effort. And I think this is very much Rutgers is clearly the more talented team. If they bring the same heart, the same will, the same hunger to win this game, they will win this game. If they don't, and they're feeling too good about themselves after that Penn State game, I mean, I think in a way that second half, I didn't harp on it enough in my reaction, but, they got away from what they wanted to do more in that second half. And I think that they didn't, I think they got winded. I think they got gassed. I think they exerted so much in that first half. This team is still building. They're still learning the level in which they need to play all the time. It's not that they're in poor shape. It's just the intensity they have to maintain. They're still learning that. And this is a big test in doing that because you can't have any letdowns in this game. And I think in a way, having that kind of letdown and still beating Penn State is a good learning lesson going into this game for this team. And that's why I also think Pikiell might, run the rotation a little longer in that first half. I think that in terms of how Rutgers wants to play, right? I mean, they can run. And I think the way they were disruptive to Penn State in the beginning with the defensive pressure, with the full court pressure, I don't think Michael Davis is going to be as much of a defensive factor in this game because he's, his size. I mean, obviously he matches up well against Ace Baldwin. He doesn't really match up well against Seton Hall from a size perspective. But I'm sure Pikiell is going to have some plan for him on the defensive end. But Chauncey Jenkins and Isaiah Coleman, their two best guards, 6'4", 6'5". Then you have Wuzu, 6'4" as well. I mean, all three of those guys, they're the best players. And the thing about the Seton Hall team is they can all shoot threes. I mean, Jenkins is 17 of 40, 42.5%. Wuzu is 11 of 29, 37.9%. Coleman is 12 of 29, 41.4%. Then you have, guys off the bench. You've seen Toomey, 6'10" guy. He's probably going to play ace, I would imagine. Is a 35.3%, 6 of 17. You have Scotty Middleton, the transfer in this game, 36.4%, 8 of 22. Even limited. I mean, Tubek is 5 of 11, 455. So you have multiple shooters in this game, and Rutgers can't get caught looking. They have to close out like they did against Penn State. Other than allowing Hicks to go off, which, listen, he's one of the best three-point shooters there is. They held Penn State to 3 of 13 from three-point range. They held other good shooters in check. So obviously, three-point range, 3 points, it's always a little bit of luck, right, in terms of the other team, but you have to consistently get a hand in their face. And Seton Hall can shoot over the defense. They have size. Penn State did not have that in every spot. So you have to be diligent in guarding the perimeter. You have to be, the ball pressure. I think Jeremiah Williams, Jerkak, they're going to bring it defensively. They need to be the leaders in terms of the intensity of what's needed on defense. And then Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey have to play smart on offense, right? And they have to get their teammates involved. You have to get shooters going in this game like you did against Penn State. You see how much that opens things up for this team. Ace Bailey doing the dirty work. He's got to go back. He's got to put his hard hat on. He's got to do the dirty work again in this game. He's got to be the lead rebounder for Rutgers. When he is, this team is at a different level, and he showed it again against Penn State and just got some critical putbacks. This is, listen, Seton Hall's going to go after Bailey. They're going to be physical with him. They're going to think they're going to push him around. They're going to try to push him around. He's got to be mentally ready for that. And I think he's obviously certainly capable, but the more you can get out in transition, the more you get defensive rebound, force turnovers. I mean, that's the other thing with Seton Hall is they are very much turnover prone, and that is something that Rutgers has to exploit in this game. 29th nationally in turnover rate. By the way, they're terrible inside. 352nd at 42.2% shooting 2-point range. Free throw shooting, they're not good at all. 60% as a team. They're 358. So this is a game. There's no easy baskets. Can't allow any open looks. And if they have the ball at the rim and they're you have to foul, and take your chances. Now, is this a game Seton Hall is going to be super focused and shoot 80% from the line? Wouldn't shock me at all. But at the same time, they don't score inside very, very efficiently, right? And all their best players shoot between 35 and 42%, 44%. A couple of guys do, but a lot of guys shoot in the 30s. I mean, this is very reminiscent of last year's team of Rutgers, but this is a more physical Seton Hall team. And they're going to come in with a chip on their shoulder, and Rutgers has to be ready to get punched in the mouth. They have to be ready to be punched in the mouth. This is a mentally straining game, but I think as a team, you can have real growth in this game, and offensively, make Seton Hall work on every possession. Don't make it easy for them by settling for contested jumpers. And Ace Bailey did a fantastic job against Penn State and not falling into that trap. And they can't fall into that trap again this time against Seton Hall. They need to work the perimeter. They need to have ball reversals. They need to have smart decision-making. That's where Dylan Harper comes in. But kick-out threes, transition threes. I mean, Hayes, Acuff. That's where I think Martini will play a role in this game. Obviously, Dylan and Ace can shoot threes. Durkak and Jaywell, when they're hitting threes, that's a bonus. So I think this team just has to be smart. Get to the rim, put pressure on Seton Hall, and when you get to the foul line, you got to convert more. I think, again, a big part of Tuesday night's poor showing at the line. I mean, your four guys that you want at the line were at the line on Tuesday night. They took all the free throw attempts in terms of Jaywell, Durkak, Bailey, and Harper. And they had an off night. And I think part of that was short rest and playing so hard with an intensity on defense that their legs, they were adjusting. So I think I think what they went through Tuesday night was perfect preparation for this game. And they just have to recognize that and be able to build off of that. So I think, obviously, hitting your free throws, getting to the rim, not settling for contested twos, working for threes within the flow of the offense, all important. But you can exert real ball pressure here and get some results here against Seton Hall. Seton Hall turns it over a ton. And, it's a game in which, again, you got to keep them off the glass and you got to close out on threes. And if they can do that, if they can challenge Seton Hall and contest everything and not allow easy second chance points, not allow open threes, Seton Hall is going to have a hard time keeping up, score enough points. They want to muck it up. They want to make it as ugly a game as possible. Rutgers has to keep their heads above water, stay off the riffraff. I'm telling you, you know Seton Hall is going to pull something in this game. You just know it. And Rutgers has to not be surprised when it happens. They have to be prepared for it and know that it's coming. And know that they have to take the high road and just outplay this team. And you know what? This is an opportunity. I see this is a kill shot game opportunity for them. They have Ant Wright had a good tweet the other day, and I think they have 9 or 10 on the season. They've only given up 1 or 2. So you can't go into long droughts on the offensive end, and that's why you have to be smart. You have to play together. Shaw is going to come up with a game plan to try to take Dylan Harper out of the game. I don't know if they're going to be able to be successful in that, but I think Dylan Harper's ability to not get sped up, to not get frustrated, to be able to use his body in the way he does, are really going to be assets in this game, as they are always, but particularly in this game. But expect Seton Hall to throw some kind of wrinkle out there, whether it's some kind of zone, whether it's full court pressure. They're going to try to make Rutgers uncomfortable. They're going to try to force Rutgers into unforced errors. Rutgers has to keep their heads The leadership on the court has to be there for Rutgers in this game. This is the next two games, Seton Hall and Princeton. They're rivalry games, but they're also opponents that it's not. It's you're gonna have to just get through it, right? It's not about style points. Obviously, I think if Rutgers can come in and really be disruptive defensively and get some points, get their offense through their defense initially, they could blow Seton Hall out. Now, if they lose their heads about them, take some bad shots, don't come in committed on the glass right away, then, next thing you know, the longer Seton Hall stays in this game, the longer their confidence will build. The RAC faithful are going to be amped up, and Rutgers, if they can hit some big shots early, share the basketball, take threes within the flow of the offense, look to run whenever possible. Seton Hall can't keep up. If Rutgers could score 80 points in this game, Seton Hall's not going to be able to keep up. And again, this is like the polar opposite of a Steve Pikiell game. You don't want it to be in the 50s or 60s. You want to get in the 70s and 80s because Seton Hall is not going to be able to score enough points. Steve Pikiell's 3-4 against Seton Hall. This would be an opportunity to win 2 in a row. Rutgers obviously playing spoiler to a better Seton Hall team last year. Seton Hall did the same 2 years ago. So the road dog has won the last 2 years. Not surprising for this rivalry. And it is a rivalry. And, this is the type, I'm sure, Ron Harper was at the game on Wednesday, Ron Harper Jr., with the Maine Celtics. He was around. I joked that before the game, it's perfect time for him to give a pep talk. I'm sure, listen, the staff knows what they're doing. They're going to have this team, they're going to have this team as prepared as they possibly can before this team actually experiences what they're going to experience. And they just have to be mentally tough enough. They have to stay together. They have to play for each other, and they have to be the tougher team. And they were on Tuesday against Penn State, and they can be, because if they can be again on Saturday, the talent gap is greater. So huge test for this team. Avoid this landmine. Notch another one in the belt in this great rivalry, the Garden State Hardwood Classic trophy on the line. 3 p.m. Fox, Saturday, national broadcast for a reason, because they know it's going to be a real doozy. The intensity level is going to be just crazy. But Rutgers has to be able to stay within themselves, play within themselves, execute the game plan. If they can do that, they're the better team. They will win this game. Ken Pom has them winning by 10, I believe. Just pulling that back up. 70-60. Ken Pom projects an 82% chance for Rutgers to win the game. Rutgers right now 68th in Ken Pom. Seton Hall just 143. Like I said, they're a Q4 game. Can't lose this game. And obviously for rivalry purposes, can't lose this game. And let's see this team have some energy, urgency. Seton Hall is going to. There's no doubt Holloway will have them ready to play. Rutgers can't be feeling too good about themselves after Tuesday's win over Penn State. Again, I think the second half actually could work in that favor in terms of it wasn't easy. They had to close it out, and they know the value of getting stops. And this isn't a perfect defensive team, but if they get key stops and key moments, the team's going to win some games. Got to take advantage of the line, keep your composure, and Rutgers will win this game if they can do all of those things. But close out on threes, keep them off the glass, be the tougher team. You're going to win this game by double digits. Hopefully they can do that. I'll have a football pod coming later on Friday with David Anderson, and I'll have the recap after this game on Saturday night. Thanks so much for listening and watching once again here at the Scarlet Faithful podcast.